I fell off the ladder, but the real fall began later. Because in that second, when I was lying on the floor and couldn't feel my own legs, my dad and his new wife were deciding not how to save me, but how much I was interfering with her perfect evening. I'm Alex, 15 years old, male. I keep replaying the moment I fell, but honestly, the part that really messes me up is what happened before the ladder even tipped. I should probably start with my dad, Mark. He used to be the kind of father who'd slip me an extra 20 for pizza night or wake me up at 5 a.m. to watch meteor showers. That version of him feels like it died the day he married Rachel. Or maybe he just buried it somewhere under her expectations and her weird obsession with being perfect. Rachel, 36, female, my dad's new wife, my stepmom, if you want to get technical. The woman reads one self-help book and suddenly thinks she's the Oprah of suburban book clubs. She's the kind of person who smiles with her teeth but not her eyes. Everything she does is curated, controlled, and honestly, a little terrifying. She can go from Pinterest mom to Mean Girls Extra in about 3 seconds flat. She has this voice she uses when I'm around, sweet on the surface but sharp underneath, like she's constantly reminding me I'm a guest in what used to be my home. That Saturday, she barges into my room without knocking, clapping her hands like she's summoning a golden retriever. Alex, book club is tonight, and I really need your help setting up. Your dad said you'd be available. Translation. I volunteered you without asking because your existence inconveniences me. I wanted to say no, I really did. But Dad was right behind her, giving me the please don't start something look, the same one he always gives when Rachel's around. Like I'm the landmine, not her. So I followed them downstairs, past the stupid, decorative ladder she insisted on keeping in the living room, even though it never matched anything. She wanted fairy lights hung just so, because otherwise her friends would notice. God forbid Brenda from the office think Rachel wasn't living her best, curated life. She positioned the ladder, handed me the lights, and said, "Just climb up there and loop them across the beam. It's simple." The ladder wobbled immediately. I told her. She rolled her eyes. "Alex, don't be dramatic. Hold it, Mark." Dad hesitated, actually hesitated, like he wasn't sure whether to listen to me or keep Rachel from getting annoyed. And that hesitation is the reason I'm here writing this with a spine that still feels like it's cracking open. Because a second later, the ladder shifted, my foot slipped on one of the warped steps, and I felt gravity yank me backward. Hard. I remember Rachel gasping, not in concern, but like I'd just dropped her favorite vase. Then everything went dark. When I came back to myself, I wasn't even sure how long I'd been out. Seconds? A minute? The world was blurry, like someone had smeared Vaseline over my eyes. My ears rang with this high-pitched whine that made it hard to hear anything else. But the pain, that part cut through everything. My lower back felt like someone had driven a metal rod through it. My legs.
Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. Thank you very much. Enjoy watching.
It was like they were there and not there at the same time. I could feel something, but not the way legs are supposed to feel, like they belonged to someone else. I tried to move. I couldn't. Dad hovered over me, pale, breathing too fast, his hands shaking like he didn't know whether to touch me or not. For a second, I thought he might actually pick me up, like that was his first instinct, instead of calling for help. Panic, not logic. Rachel pushed him aside like she was rearranging furniture. "Mark, don't hover. You're freaking him out." Then, to me, in that strained, faux, gentle tone, "Alex, sweetie, just give it a minute. Give it a... You probably just knocked the wind out of yourself." My body felt like shattered glass, and she was acting like I'd tripped on a curb. I tried to speak, but my throat felt tight. "I can't move." She knelt beside me and actually frowned, but not in a worried way, more like I was an unexpected stain on her favorite rug. "You're probably stiff from the fall. Don't jump to conclusions." Dad swallowed hard. "Rachel, he fell pretty hard." "Because you didn't hold the ladder," she shot back. I swear, she actually turned it into his fault before checking if I could feel my legs. It was getting harder to breathe. The pain kept pulsing in waves every time I tried to shift even a fraction. My vision flickered, black at the edges. I tried again to move my foot. Nothing, not even a twitch. "Dad," I whispered. "I can't move my legs." His face crumpled like he'd been punched. He immediately reached for his phone, and Rachel snatched his wrist. "Don't call 911. It'll take forever, and the sirens will wake up the whole street. Plus, they'll track mud through the house, and we still have to set up before the girls arrive." "The girls?" My voice cracked. I couldn't even believe what I was hearing. "It's fine," she insisted, as calmly as if she were discussing a recipe. "Urgent care is 5 minutes away, way faster than waiting for an ambulance." Dad hesitated again, and that hesitation, God, it felt like betrayal, in real time. "Rachel," he said weakly, "he can't feel his legs." "Adrenaline," she snapped. "He's scared. Just help me get him up. We'll put him in the car and take him ourselves." The horror of that idea hit me immediately. "I can't get up," I gasped as another spike of pain tore through my back. But Rachel kept pushing, kept insisting, kept trying to turn a spinal injury into an inconvenience. She even said, "We just need him walking enough to get to the car, Mark. Use your strength. He's not that heavy." Walking, like my legs weren't two dead weights attached to me. I saw Dad's face, the confusion, the fear, the guilt, and the desperate need to avoid another fight with her. He was in that frozen state where he couldn't pick a side, so he defaulted to whichever voice was louder. And Rachel? Rachel was always the loudest. She put her hand on my dad's arm and said, "Just trust me." And he did. He actually did. He nodded. And in that moment, flat on the floor, unable to move, pain ripping through me, I realized something I wish I'd never had to learn. My dad loved Rachel's approval more than he loved protecting me. He knelt beside me, gently sliding his hands under my shoulders as Rachel grabbed my ankles. And the second they lifted me, my whole world detonated. I don't remember screaming, but apparently I was. The pain wasn't just pain. It was electric, blinding, like my spine had shattered into burning wires. Dad panicked and almost dropped me, and Rachel groaned, like I was the one inconveniencing her by having a spinal cord. "Mark, keep him steady," she snapped, as if I were a couch they were trying to move down a flight of stairs. He was shaking so badly he could barely hold me. Rachel, this is hurting him." "No kidding," I gasped, every breath a knife. Put me down, please." But Rachel dug in her heels. "If we stop now, we'll have to call an ambulance and they'll take forever. Just help me get him into the car." Like I was a suitcase, like my pain was a scheduling issue. Dad obeyed her, not me, not the kid who couldn't move his legs, the woman who didn't want her book club interrupted. They carried me like that, my back twisting, my legs limp, my vision flickering in and out through the living room, past the stupid decorative ladder that caused this mess in the first place. I felt every uneven movement in my spine, like each step was grinding something inside me. Dad whispered, "I'm sorry, buddy, I'm so sorry." But he still kept moving because Rachel kept commanding him like she was running a production line. By the time they got me outside, the sunlight made me nauseous. I remember gripping Dad's shirt so tightly, my knuckles went white. He tried to lower me into the back seat of Rachel's SUV, and Rachel kept saying things like, "If you just relax your muscles, it won't hurt as much. We're almost done, Alex. Stop tensing. You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be." The more I cried, the more annoyed she sounded. They forced me into the car seat in this twisted, half-sitting position, because I physically couldn't fold at the waist. My lower spine felt like it was on fire and frozen at the same time. Dad got into the driver's seat. Rachel climbed in, next to me in the back, like she needed to supervise my suffering. I begged them to call 911. I begged. Not because I had pride. By then, humiliation was the least of my concerns. I begged because something in me knew I was hurt, in a way you don't recover from, with a bandage and an ice pack. Rachel put her hand on my knee, my unresponsive, dead-feeling knee, and said, "We're almost there. You're making a mountain out of nothing." Then she turned to my dad. "Mark, don't speed. Getting pulled over will just slow us down." I remember thinking, a cop might actually save me right now. Dad just nodded again. Whatever Rachel said became law. When we pulled up to the urgent care, she had the audacity to sigh in relief, as if the worst was over, for her. Dad opened the door, and the second I tried to move, the same screaming pain ricocheted up my spine. I couldn't get out. I physically couldn't. My legs wouldn't support me, wouldn't even twitch. A nurse stepped outside. She must have heard me yelling, and the moment she took one look at me, her whole expression changed. She didn't even bother with the usual gentle questioning. She went straight into command mode. "Don't move him. Don't touch him. Call 911 right now." Rachel threw up her hands. "Oh my God, it's not that serious. He just fell off a ladder." The nurse turned on her with this look like she'd just kicked a puppy. "He has classic signs of a spinal injury. If you moved him, you may have made it worse." Dad froze, like those words finally pierced the fog he'd been in. Rachel folded her arms, offended. "We would have gotten here faster than an ambulance. You should never transport a potential spinal injury in a personal vehicle," the nurse snapped. "He could be paralyzed." And for the first time since my fall, Dad's face broke, completely. He looked at me. Not through me, not past me, not at Rachel, but at me. That's when the panic hit him. "Oh God," he whispered, voice cracking. What did I do?" Dad kept whispering, "What did I do? What did I do?" Like saying it would rewind the last 30 minutes, but nothing was rewinding. I was stuck in that twisted position in Rachel's SUV, barely breathing, feeling like every bone in my lower back had been welded wrong. The nurse didn't waste time. She called into the building. "We need a spinal board and EMS now." 2 more staff members rushed out. One older guy with glasses, one younger nurse with purple scrubs. They were all business. Purple scrubs crouched beside me, voice calm and steady. "Hey, Alex, right? Don't move your head. Just look at me, okay? We've got you." Finally, someone talked to me, like a human being instead of a problem. Dad stepped back, hands shaking, eyes red. Rachel, of course, wasn't done embarrassing herself. "This is ridiculous," she said, gesturing wildly. If we'd waited for the ambulance at home, he'd still be lying on the floor. We made the faster choice. Glasses guy turned to her with this flat expression that I swear could have killed a plant. "Ma'am, in spinal trauma, faster is not better if the patient is being moved incorrectly. You could have caused irreversible damage." "I was trying to help," she snapped. "No," Purple Scrub said, not even looking at her. "You were trying not to disrupt your plans." Rachel's mouth dropped open. She looked like someone finally hit her with the truth. She'd been dodging her whole life. Dad didn't defend her. For the first time, he didn't say anything at all. He just stared at me like he was seeing the full weight of what he'd allowed. It took them about 8 minutes to stabilize my neck, slide the board behind me, and lift me out of the SUV. Every micro movement sent a jolt of fire up my spine, but they moved like a practiced machine, slow, precise, deliberate. When I was finally lying flat on the board, Purple Scrub said gently, "We're not going to move you again until EMS arrives. We're keeping everything as still as possible." Rachel huffed. Actually huffed. "This is so unnecessary. I told you he was exaggerating. He walks up and down the stairs every day." "That was before he fell 10 feet onto his back," Glasses Guy said, "and before you transported him improperly." Dad winced like every word was a blow. Rachel scoffed. "Well, excuse me for not being a doctor." "You didn't need to be a doctor," Purple Scrub said. "You just needed common sense." Dad finally snapped out of whatever fog he'd been in. "Rachel, stop talking." Her head jerked toward him. "Excuse me?" "I said stop." His voice was shaking, not angry, but horrified, like he couldn't stand hearing her justify what she'd done. She opened her mouth to argue, but just then the ambulance pulled up, sirens off, lights still flashing, and honestly, I have never been so relieved to hear metal doors slam and paramedics running toward me. The lead paramedic, a woman with her hair in a tight bun, knelt beside the stretcher. "What happened?" Purple Scrubs answered before my dad or Rachel could open their mouths. Teen fell from a ladder. Severe back pain, limited lower body sensation. Family moved him in a personal vehicle. Potential spinal involvement. The paramedic's eyes sharpened. She looked at me and asked, "Alex, can you feel your toes right now?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I can't tell." She nodded once, jaw tightening. She looked at my dad next. "Sir, did you move him after the fall?" Dad's face crumpled. Yes. I didn't know. I didn't realize. God, I'm so sorry." Rachel cut in instantly. "He's not the only one who moved him." The paramedic ignored her. Completely. "Okay," she said calmly. "We're going to get him to County General for immediate imaging. Possible spinal surgery, depending on what we find." Dad choked back a sob. Rachel froze. Me? I just lay there, staring up at the sky, trying not to panic as the realization hit. This was no longer just pain. This was life-changing. As they lifted me into the ambulance, Dad grabbed my hand. "I'm coming with you. I'm not leaving you again." Rachel stepped forward, like she expected to come too. The paramedic blocked her with one arm. "Ma'am, there's only room for one family member, and he's already chosen." Dad didn't even look at her. Didn't say goodbye. Rachel stood there on the curb, jaw tight, arms crossed over her chest, like she was the victim in all this. And as the door shut, I saw her face twist into something I'll never forget. Annoyance, not fear, not guilt, not concern. Annoyance that her book club night had been ruined. The ambulance ride was this surreal blur of cold air, beeping monitors, and the paramedic tightening the straps so I wouldn't shift even a millimeter. Every bump in the road felt like it drove a needle deeper into my spine. Dad sat beside me, gripping the rail with white knuckles, eyes locked on my face, like he was terrified I'd disappear if he blinked. He kept whispering, "I'm here, buddy. I'm right here," like he was trying to convince himself more than me. The paramedic, her name tag said Reyes, checked my vitals every couple of minutes. She kept asking me to wiggle my toes, move my legs, tell her what I could feel. The answer stayed the same. Nothing. And each time I said it, Dad flinched, like I'd hit him. When we got to County General, everything moved fast. Too fast to process. They slid me straight from the gurney onto a hospital bed with a spinal transfer board underneath. Someone clipped a neck brace around me, so tight it felt like I was being swallowed. Bright lights, cold air, voices that moved around me like currents. Possible L1, L4 involvement. Prep for CT and MRI. Get neurosurgery paged. Now. Dad followed as far as they let him before a nurse stepped into his path. "Sir, you can't be in the imaging suite." He looked like he wanted to argue, but then he saw them rolling me away. "Alex," he called. "I'll be right outside. I'm not going anywhere, I promise." And then he actually didn't go anywhere. The nurse later told me he stood in the hallway the entire time, pacing like a caged animal, hands in his hair, muttering to himself. I went through the CT first. Lying completely still, while pain tore through me, was its own form of torture. Then, the MRI, which felt like being shoved into a metal coffin that screamed at me. The whole time, all I could think was, if I hadn't climbed that ladder, if Rachel hadn't insisted, if Dad had just listened. When they brought me back to my room, Dad was right there, red-eyed, pale, still shaking. The neurosurgeon came in a few minutes later, a tall man with calm eyes, and the kind of voice that makes you brace for bad news before he even speaks. "Alex," he said gently, "you have significant trauma to the lower thoracic and upper lumbar region of your spine. There's swelling around the nerves that control your legs." Dad's breath hitched. "We need to operate immediately to relieve the pressure. The sooner we decompress, the better the chances for recovery." Dad asked the question I didn't dare ask. "Will he walk again?" The doctor didn't sugarcoat it. "I can't promise. It depends on how much damage was done at the moment of impact, and also during movement afterward." He paused, looked straight at Dad. "Moving a spinal injury without stabilization can cause additional trauma. It's possible some of the deficit is related to that." Dad's face collapsed. He covered his mouth, shoulders shaking. I'd never seen him cry like that, like he was witnessing his own failure in real time. I didn't know, he whispered. God, I didn't know. I didn't know. The surgeon squeezed his shoulder, not forgiving him, but acknowledging the pain. Right now, our focus is surgery. As they prepped me, Dad leaned over me and said, Alex, I am so, so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have listened to you. I shouldn't have listened to her. I won't make that mistake again. And I believed he meant every word. But meaning something isn't the same thing as undoing it. Right as they rolled me toward the operating room, Dad's phone buzzed. He didn't check it, just silenced it. But I saw the caller ID on the screen before it went dark. Rachel. And I swear, something inside me hardened. Something that had cracked when I hit the floor but didn't break until that moment. Because even while I was being wheeled into spinal surgery, she still thought she had the right to call. When I woke up after surgery, everything felt distant, like someone had unplugged me from my own body and reconnected me wrong. My legs were still there. I could see them under the blanket, but they might as well have been prosthetics. No feeling, no warmth, no weight. Just limbs that belonged to a version of me that didn't exist anymore. Dad was sitting beside the bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like it had the answers to everything he screwed up. The moment he realized I was awake, he jumped up. Alex, hey, buddy, you're okay. You're out of surgery. His voice cracked on okay, like he didn't believe it. The neurosurgeon came in a few minutes later. His face gave nothing away. The surgery went well, he said. We relieved the pressure on your lower spine. Now we wait for the swelling to go down. Dad asked the question he'd been terrified of since the fall. Can he feel anything yet? The doctor didn't hesitate. Not yet. That's normal. Nerves can take days, weeks, even months to recover. We can't predict the outcome until the inflammation decreases. Normal. That word felt like a joke. Dad tried to smile at me, but it twisted into something halfway between hope and grief. I wanted to say something. I don't know what. Comfort him, blame him, tell him it's okay, tell him it isn't. All I managed was, my legs feel weird. Lie. They felt like nothing. Dad nodded too fast. That's okay, buddy. That's good. Weird is good. Feeling anything is good. I didn't have the heart to correct him. About 20 minutes later, the door cracked open, and Rachel slipped in like she was sneaking into a movie theater. No announcement, no apology, just gliding in, with her perfect blowout and that tight-lipped look like someone had forced her to attend a meeting she didn't want. Dad stiffened immediately. He didn't look at her, didn't speak. She stopped at the foot of my bed, hands clasped, like she was the victim here. Alex, oh my God, sweetie, I've been so worried. Worried? Right. I couldn't turn my head because of the brace, but my eyes locked on her like she was an electrical fire about to spread. Dad finally spoke. Rachel, wait outside. She blinked fast, insulted. Mark, I'm trying to... Outside. His voice was low, firm, the kind of tone he used to have before she rewired him into someone small. She huffed like a teenager being told to clean her room. Unbelievable. I drive here to support my family. And this is how you talk to me? Dad snapped. Actually snapped. You nearly cost my son the ability to walk. You insisted on driving him yourself. You ignored him when he said he couldn't feel his legs. His voice rose, raw. You made me believe you. So go. Now. It was the first time I heard him say anything real in months. Rachel's lips pinched into that familiar thin line. Her I didn't get my way expression. She turned toward me like she wanted one last chance to save face. Alex, you know I didn't mean... Leave, I croaked. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't spit rage, just... said it. But it hit her harder than screaming ever would. Her face went blank, then cold. She pivoted and walked out without another word. The door clicked behind her like she was sealing herself out of my life. Dad sank back into the chair, rubbing his eyes. I'm done with her, he whispered. I'm so done. The tragic part? I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel anything except the aching emptiness in my lower body and the crushing knowledge that everything had changed. The injury, the trust, the entire shape of my life. The next few days blurred together. Tests, pain meds, nurses flipping me like a rotisserie chicken so I wouldn't develop pressure sores. Dad hovering, not letting Rachel back in the room. Texts from her piling up on his phone. I heard snippets when he stepped into the hall. You're being dramatic. He needs to stop blaming me. You're ruining our marriage. I'm trying to fix things. But Dad never let her through the door. And somewhere in that haze, physical therapy started. Not real therapy, just, can you lift this toe? Can you feel when I touch here? Does this pressure hurt? The answer stayed the same. No, no, no. And every no was a punch to the gut. By day 5, news reached my mom, who lived one town over, and nearly tore the hospital doors off their hinges when she arrived. When she found out Rachel had delayed calling an ambulance, it took 3 nurses and 1 security guard to keep her from hunting Rachel down in the parking lot. Legal words started being thrown around. Negligence, recklessness, liability, not by me, not by Dad, by Mom. And Rachel? She had no idea what was coming, but I did, because lying there in that hospital bed, braced and immobile, something inside me shifted, hardened. This wasn't going to end with an apology, or a divorce, or a tearful family meeting. Something bigger was coming, something she wasn't ready for, something sweet. and she had no idea. I didn't want to see Rachel again. Not ever. But fate or stupidity has a way of circling back to the people you most want gone. It happened on my second week in the hospital. I was propped up slightly, the brace biting into my collarbone, trying to focus on the numb emptiness in my legs instead of the burning pain in my back. Dad sat beside me, quieter these days, like guilt had hollowed him out. Mom was standing on the opposite side of the bed, flipping through a pile of paperwork from her lawyer. That's when we heard raised voices in the hallway. Rachel's raised voice. No one is going to keep me away from my family. I have every right to be in there. Dad groaned and pinched the bridge of his nose. Oh God, not now. Mom's entire posture changed, straightened, tightened, ready to strike. She steps 1 foot in here, and I swear to God. Mom, I said softly. She looked at me, realized I meant it, and backed down, barely. A second later, Rachel barged into the room like a tornado made of perfume and entitlement. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, expression carved from ice. Mark, she snapped, oh Mo, we need to talk. Dad didn't even look at her. Not here, not now. No, she pushed on, stepping closer to the bed. I'm not letting your ex-wife and your guilt keep you from the truth. Mom barked a laugh. The truth? Sweetheart, the only truth is, you're lucky my son is too injured to throw something at your head. Rachel ignored her. She zeroed in on Dad, and then on me. I've had time to think, she said, voice trembling. Not with remorse, but with frustration. And I realize now that this whole situation is being twisted to make me the villain. You are the villain, I said quietly. She blinked like I'd slapped her. Alex, honey, you fell. Accidents happen. You can't blame me for gravity. I felt my chest tighten, not from pain this time, but fury. I told you I couldn't move. I told you something was wrong. You made Dad drag me into the car. She scoffed. I was trying to help. If you hadn't been so panicked. Mom stepped forward. Say one more word, blaming him, and I will personally rearrange your facial bones. Rachel looked between the three of us, realizing she wasn't winning this room. Her voice rose, shrill. You all want to ruin my life over one mistake? You're feeding him lies, making him think I don't care. Dad finally turned to her, eyes exhausted. Rachel, stop. Please stop. You need to leave. No, she exploded, throwing her purse onto a chair so hard it bounced off. No, I am not leaving. You don't get to push me out of a family I built with you. You didn't build anything, Dad said, voice low. You destroyed something. That finally broke her, or snapped something in her. Her breathing got jagged, her voice erratic. You're all manipulating him against me. I know you are. You want him to hate me. Rachel, I said, I don't need manipulation to hate you. Her face twisted, ugly, distorted, unrecognizable from the flawless persona she liked to wear. She pointed a shaking finger at me. You stupid, ungrateful, little... Mom moved first. She stepped between us like a shield, her voice a razor. Finish that sentence. I dare you. Rachel stumbled backward, startled by the force behind my mother's voice. She looked at Dad again, eyes wide. You're choosing them over me? I'm choosing my son, Dad said. Finally. After everything I've done for you, she whispered. After everything you've done to him, he corrected. Rachel snapped, threw her hands up. Knocked a metal tray off the bedside table, crashing noise, water spilling everywhere. A nurse rushed in, startled, and Rachel whirled on her too. Get out! This is a family discussion. The nurse looked from Rachel's wild eyes to the spilled equipment, to me, strapped in a brace, and immediately radioed security. Rachel backed toward the door, panicked. Fine, fine. Go ahead. Paint me as the monster. You'll regret it. All of you. She shoved past the nurse, heels clacking violently down the hall. Security followed her. Dad sank into the chair like his bones had melted. Mom paced like she needed somewhere to put her rage. Me? I stared at the ceiling and felt something new. Not fear, not shock. Resolve. Because Rachel wasn't done. And neither was I. Mom leaned over and said quietly, Sweetheart, the lawsuit is moving forward, and Rachel is named. Dad didn't fight it. Not anymore. And in that moment, I realized that the sweetest revenge wouldn't be yelling or hitting or breaking something. It would be the truth. Laid out, in court, documented, permanent, undeniable. Rachel would finally face consequences, and I would finally get my voice back. The lawsuit hit Rachel harder than any of us expected. Mom filed it the same week I started real physical therapy. Actual sessions, not the poke your foot and tell me if you feel anything phase. My therapist, a guy named Lewis, was patient but relentless. He kept reminding me, recovery is slow. Consistency is everything. Your nerves need time. Time. The word felt like a threat. 2 months after surgery, I still couldn't feel my legs, but I could feel everything else. The guilt hanging off Dad like a shadow. The rage simmering under Mom's skin. The buzzing fear in my chest every time I was lifted into the wheelchair. And the lawsuit? It became the soundtrack to my recovery. Depositions, statements, documentation from the urgent care staff, witness accounts, photos of the ladder, the warped steps, the angle of the beam. Rachel insisted on decorating for her stupid book club. Every piece painted the same picture. Rachel ignored a medical emergency. Rachel overrode my dad. Rachel insisted on transporting me herself. Rachel delayed proper care. Rachel escalated risk at every turn, and the hospital staff didn't hold back in their reports. Not after what they witnessed. But the part that sealed her fate came from Purple Scrubs, the nurse who first saw me in the SUV. She wrote a detailed professional statement. Patient exhibited signs of severe spinal trauma. Immediate EMS activation was required. Family's decision to transport patient without stabilization likely contributed to neurological compromise. Likely contributed. 2 words that hung like a guillotine. Dad gave his statement next. He didn't try to protect himself. Or her. He told the truth, broken voice, shaking hands, no excuses. I was wrong. I listened to my wife when I should have listened to my son. It wasn't just accountability, it was evidence. Rachel's deposition, though, that was the fireworks show. She walked into the room like she was the CEO of morality, dressed head to toe in designer clothes she definitely couldn't afford anymore. My lawyer later said she spent most of the deposition swinging between fake crying and angry rants. At one point, she apparently shouted, "Why is everyone lying about me? I was the only one thinking clearly." When they asked why she didn't call 911, she said, "Sirens would have upset the neighbors." When they asked why she insisted on taking me to urgent care, she said, "Well, he wasn't dying, was he?" When they asked why she kept blaming me for the fall, she said, "He's dramatic. He always has been." Every answer dug her deeper. And the best part? Dad didn't sit with her, didn't hold her hand, didn't look at her. He sat beside Mom. Because somewhere along the way, he'd realized the truth. The woman he married didn't just hurt me. She hollowed out the person he used to be. He looked smaller when she was in the room, duller. Like she drained the light from him. Mom didn't take him back. This wasn't a romantic reunion. But she stood next to him in that deposition because he was finally standing next to me. 3 months after the lawsuit began, Rachel finally cracked. She showed up at the hospital again, but this time in tears, real tears, the messy kind. Dad blocked the door with his whole body. "You don't get to see him," she sobbed, mascara running. "Mark, everything is falling apart. They're saying I could lose the house." "It's my house," Dad said. "You're leaving it." Her breathing hitched. "You're choosing them over me." "It's not a choice, Istawi," he said. "It's a correction." She reached for him, desperate. I never meant to hurt him. Dad didn't yell, didn't shake, just stepped back and closed the door in her face. It was the quietest, cleanest revenge I'd ever seen. And a week later, he filed for divorce. The lawsuit didn't make my legs work again. Physical therapy was still slow, brutal, uncertain. Some feeling came back in my thighs months later, a faint pressure, like someone tapping from far away. Lewis called it progress. I called it a question mark. But the lawsuit did do one thing. It protected me. When the ruling came, it was official. Rachel was found negligent, reckless, liable. She had to pay damages, big ones that would follow her for years. Dad's lawyer told us she cried in the hallway after the verdict, wailing that her life was ruined, that people would talk, that she was the victim. But for once, no one listened, not even Dad. The night I came home from the hospital for good, still in a wheelchair, still adjusting, still terrified, I rolled past the living room and saw the ladder. Dad had leaned it against the wall, broken, splintered, warped, a reminder. I asked him quietly, "Why'd you keep it?" He shook his head. "I didn't. I kept it to throw away." Then he picked it up, carried it outside, and smashed it into pieces with a hammer. Not angrily, not wildly, just deliberately. Like he was dismantling the hold she had on us. Each crack of wood felt like closure. When he was done, he looked at me. "I can't change what happened, but I can make sure nothing like it happens again. You come first, always." And for the first time since the fall, I believed him. I'm not the same kid I was before the ladder. My legs aren't the same. My life isn't the same. But I'm alive. I'm healing. I'm learning how to move forward, literally and figuratively. And Rachel? She's a cautionary tale now, a name we don't say unless we're talking about court documents. She lost the house. She lost my dad. She lost her reputation. She lost everything she tried to protect more fiercely than my life. Sweet revenge? It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't violent. It wasn't loud. It was justice, slow, methodical, inevitable. And I got to watch it unfold from a place she never expected. A position of truth, a position of strength, a position she could never touch.